Tennessee. And our first guest for the evening is Dr. Ruby Martin, who is the professor for reading in the School of Education at Tennessee State University. Welcome to Black Pulse, Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Haney.
Dr. Martin, we've talked about illiteracy in the workplace, and I would like for you, as a professor of reading at Tennessee State University, to give our viewing audience some information relative to the impact that illiteracy has on American society, and then to bring it down to the state of Tennessee and to talk about it from that point of view.
Okay, we think in terms of adult illiterates as being persons who have been variously described as marginally illiterate, functionally illiterate, educationally disadvantaged, and also inefficiently educated. Okay, these persons themselves feel that they are powerless and at times limited in the benefits that they can reap from society because of their paucity of reading skills. In addition, we find that they also cannot achieve to their potential as far as their personal goals are concerned, or even their work-related goals.
You know, we hear so much, Dr. Martin, concerning the impact that illiteracy has on our general society. Exactly how widespread is illiteracy throughout the United States? I mean, what percentage, perhaps, of the population are we talking about?
When you ask how widespread it is,
yes, ma'am.
The problem is at a crisis stage. It has been at a crisis stage for a long time. You may remember that in 1983, the National Commission on Excellence in Education published a report. And in that report, they warned that our nation was at risk because of illiteracy, and then also because of the collapse in standards at the high school and the college level in education. Recent statistics, as reported in both the, you may have seen the Tennessean article in 1986, and also the very highly quoted book by Jonathan Kozol on Illiterate America. It was reported that at least 35 million Americans.
This is out of a population of 200 million?
No, I'm breaking down some statistics for you, right?
Sorry,
okay.
Very well.
35 million Americans are reading at a marginal level, okay? They cannot deal with the very basic survival skills that they need for coping in our society. 25 million people also have similar problems, that they are classified as being more seriously inhibited in their reading skills. These persons cannot read poison labels on pesticide cans. They also cannot read the front page of the daily newspaper. All total, according to that report, 60 million Americans have serious reading problems, and that makes up about 1/3 of the entire population. Now, in our own state, there has been some published data that almost 500,000 people are classified as being marginal or functional illiterates, and that's about 10% of the population in the state of Tennessee.
Well, now, as a person who has studied in this area many, many years, Dr. Martin, what are some of the solutions that you see in terms of dealing with this national crisis? For indeed, it is a national crisis.
Okay, I really do not see any easy solutions. I'm not sure I can quote some solutions for you. As a personal crusader in reading, I have had many occasions to deal with persons who are indeed illiterate, persons who have come to me as expressed illiterates. There have been some instances where I have been able to help them. There have been other instances where after a while they became less motivated because of inhibiting factors perhaps in the environment that deterred them from learning to read. I think that the largest solution will stem from the United States government prioritizing an emergency action, okay, in terms of providing adequate funding and putting some priority on illiteracy in the United States and particularly in the workplace.
Now, with approximately 1/3 of our population falling within that category, how do we deal with that in terms of employer-employee relationships? I mean, how does that impact the workplace?
It impacts the workplace very seriously. Let me refer you to another report. There was a report that emanated from research done at the University of Texas in 1973 under the guidance of Dr. Norvell Northcutt. He and fellow researchers devised an instrument through which an assessment for the standards that pertain to the successes in the adult population in the workplace were published. And recently they did a follow-up study with more recent statistics. And they found that 36%, these are just some examples, 36% of persons who are supplied with W-2 forms cannot indeed fill in the appropriate numbers in the spaces to indicate exemptions, okay? They also found that 44% of these persons could not match their qualifications with the requirements of a job. Another instance, New York law firm reported that 70% of their type reports had to be retyped because of secretaries, the inability of secretaries to spell correctly and also punctuate correctly, okay? Businesses also feel the brunt of this in terms of marketing firms having problems. Naturally, they would send out surveys to try to assess the needs of the clientele in light of their services. They miss millions of people. There's a lack of match between the clientele and the services that they have to offer. In addition, millions of people send in inaccurate reports, some of which are incomprehensible because of the lack of their ability to read.
And how do we, do you see it as a governmental problem? That is, it's a problem that can only be dealt with by...
No, it doesn't. It cannot be handled solely by the government. I think it will require their giving a priority to it, and I think that the states, municipal, government, private concerns, it has to be a concerted effort for everybody. I might also add that many of the illiterates are highly intelligent people, okay? They are creative people. They can be taught to read, okay? The unfortunate thing about it is that they are very lonely people, and sometimes they isolate themselves because of fear of being discovered. Sometimes you might find that people whom you meet on a first encounter, you may think that the person is highly literate. It may not be so, because consequently they have developed coping mechanisms to deal with the problem. And they have become very good at this.
Very good. And let us thank you for coming by and discussing with us some aspects of this illiteracy problem, Dr. Martin. And we'll be back following this commercial announcement.
My pleasure.